feel. Like, imagine if a guy was just up to you talking with a, he's got like a mouse in his hand. You'd be like, whoa, what a weirdo this guy is. I'm Ascend Hyperion, and this is Let's Argue. Let's Argue is a series where I go to Twitter and engage in your hot Halo takes, your normal ideas, and your crazy opinions. I disagree or agree and explain why. I'm usually joined by a new beer, but with the change of the weather, I'm feeling maybe just a little under the weather. So today I'm joined with a little glass of orange juice, which I have pretty much demolished before the video even began. So here's to my health and your health, and to bad Halo takes, or good Halo takes, or just Halo takes. Here's to Halo takes. We can pretend like that was like a liquor. And we'll call it even. If you want to participate in Let's Argue, it's really simple. Just follow me on Twitter at Ascend Hyperion. And when I post my threads for Let's Argue, go ahead and drop what you think. Now, I had a prompt last time around. I asked you guys for your hot takes regarding the weapon sandbox in the Halo franchise. If you want to see the first video about this, you can click the card here or here. You're looking at me. Card should be here. Jonah says, Halo 4 Boltshot is more broken than Infinite's Mangler. Alright, so I'm going to level out with you, Jonah, and we'll say for the sake of this argument, the Mangler is broken, which I don't think it is, but for the sake of the argument, we will say it is. Comparatively, yes, I agree. The Halo 4 Boltshot is a monstrous weapon, and it's not so much that it's a pistol that becomes a shotgun. What crosses the line is that you can spawn with it. And if you are an older viewer of this channel, not like old as in like your age, but like you've been watching this channel for a while, you'll remember that I did a video called The One Thing That Should Never Return to Halo, and that was custom classes. And I cited how custom classes really mess with the equal starts principle. And the Boltshot was a primary offender in that. I mean, you basically now have the ability to spawn with a tier 2 power weapon, and that is just busted. So, you know, maybe the Halo 4 Boltshot wouldn't be remembered so negatively, if you agree with Jonah, if it wasn't a spawn weapon, like if you had to pick it up off the map, if it was like a tried and true power weapon, that might have changed opinions about it a little bit. So, but you know, coulda, shoulda, woulda, dida, we'll never know. So I agree with this, Jonah. You're onto something. Barbecue Barnes says, repetition in the weapon sandbox is not a bad thing. It can add to the atmosphere of a map. Even if it's not viable, it adds atmosphere. I agree. And here's the thing, it's like when people try to they argue with me about dual wielding or like the Spartan laser. I have a video talking about my best ideas and theories as to why Halo Infinite has such a trimmed back weapon sandbox, and I had said that what might be driving it is fighting against weapon repetition in the sandbox or weapon redundancy. Ironically, part of what drove me to make that video is that I made like a joke about sandbox purists in a different video, and people were upset about that. So I was like, well, you know, I'll even the scoreboard and I'll make a video in defense of sandbox purists and explain like where they're coming from. And now I've become like the figurehead for sandbox purism. Like I get all these angry comments, especially people like throw slight at me on Twitter, like, oh, you're a sandbox purist. Like I'm actually not. That's not necessarily how I roll, but you know, it's whatever. People need someone to be mad at, right? But I agree. There's nothing inherently wrong with redundancy, and it does, I think, in my opinion, excel in a situation like this person describes, where you're just kind of like, it's thematic, you know, depending on what map you're on, the weapons change a little bit, especially if the redundancy is so close that they're almost interchangeable. You're not really worried about modifying your gameplay experience all the time. So I agree, Barbecue Barnes. I think redundancy has good use for something like that. This is like really weird for me because normally when I'm doing this, I have, at least in one of my hands, I have the beer. And today I have my mouse because I'm like clicking through the takes, and it doesn't have the same weight to it and like the same feel. Like imagine if a guy was just up to you talking with him, he's got like a fucking mouse in his hand. You'd be like, whoa, what a weirdo this guy is. Great Fairy says, Halo 4 had the worst sound design of the series for most of the weapons. Yes, some of the weapons, like the AR, sound great, but the weapons like the BR and Magnum don't even sound like they're firing shots. I agree. I agree. And you know, it's funny about it because when I read this, we say it has like the worst sound design. It definitely has maybe not worst, but strangest. I would say it reminds me of like when we came out, like 2012, right? 2012, 2013, even 2014. There was that weird little pocket where a lot of first-person shooters like really wanted the unique Foley. You guys remember that at all? Like that was kind of a trendy thing for games to do, and that was right before I feel like a lot of games had really grander access to recording weapon sounds, like actual real world guns, because now it's like actual real weapons. But you know what's weird about that? If I remember it all correctly, Halo 4 was using real weapon sounds, but I think they like sci-fi'd them up. I don't know, but luckily things change. I think Halo 5 did a great job kind of backpedaling that and making it a little better. It sounds different still. It's not like generic weapon fire, but I think they achieved what they wanted in Halo 4 in Halo 5. So I agree with the sentiment here that Halo 4 is weird. Eternal Eternal Yee 459 says 343i should definitely make their own game after mastering the quality art of a live service game and shooter, especially one like Halo, when they finish Infinite in 10 years. Even Halo will get lost in the sands of time, and we should slowly prepare for this. I get where you're coming from, but I disagree. So here's the thing. 343 should make their own game. Halo is their own game. Alright, so let's just get one thing together here, right? 343 is not like other publishers that produce multiple titles, or I mean other developers that produce multiple titles under the wing of a general publisher. 343 was created and exists explicitly for Halo, the development of Halo as a series, okay? And even the Bungie that makes Destiny is a far shout from the Bungie that made Halo. 343's been developing the Halo franchise for almost 10 years now. It is just as much their game as it is Bungie's or any permutation of Bungie. So, yeah. You know, and this back half thing here about Halo will get lost to the sands of time. I understand the sentiment, but while it is difficult for a gaming franchise to persist for a long amount of time, I don't think it's impossible. And if anything, franchises like Mario or Metroid or Call of Duty or The Legend of Zelda, even Battlefield, I mean, they are showing that you can have a 2-decade, 3-decade, 4-decade franchise. It changes over time and things get different and you have to evolve or make different decisions, but the title, the IP, can continue on through multiple generations of gaming. So, you know, I think we're feeling a little doom and gloom right now because Infinite has a lot of hangups. I'm the first to tell you that. The game has a lot of progress it needs to make, but you never know. In a year's time, we might be looking at Infinite a lot more different, and for it to be a 10-year game might seem more feasible. Or plans might change at 343 and Infinite only becomes a 5-year game, and then suddenly there's something else, right? So I don't think they need to move on, make their own game. So, but you know, man, I get where you're coming from, and I just think I'm not quite sold on that just yet. So, Silent Shadow says, Halo 4's Magnum fits best into the sandbox out of all of them. It rises above Halo Reach, Halo 2, and 3 Magnums while not being as heavy-handed as the Halo CE, 5, and Infinite versions. It really fits the sidearm role the best. And I'm going to agree based very concisely on that last bit. It fits the sidearm role. I would agree that Halo 4 Magnum is definitely as good as it gets, right up until the point where you become the new meta weapon, where you become the Halo 5 Magnum. And that is always standing where I think the Halo 5 Magnum is the best precision weapon meta implementation that we've ever gotten. I think it is a superior weapon experience to the BR from a haptic and from a combat level, and from a POV that it still allows the sandbox around it to thrive. But if you're speaking about wanting a competent, well-performing, very consistent sidearm experience, yes, Halo 4 Magnum all the way. Having the scope, having the lower damage, the higher fire rate, but still paceable, if not almost requiring some type of pace, or now that I really think about it, it diverges. It gives you that variability that the Halo 5 Magnum kind of gets you, where like if you're up close, you can confidently, tap shot. But if you're far away, you can dish out and damage with that Magnum at range and succeed and get kills. And I have clips of me just kind of like, I might have a carbine in my hand, and what I'm whipping out to is the Magnum in the moment because I like how it performs better. So yeah, that's a good little idea there, Silent Shadow, and I think that is a credit that the Halo 4 Magnum does not really get as much as it probably could or should. So I agree. And just like that, that's another episode of Let's Argue in the Books. Although this one kind of was more like a let's agree. We had a lot of agrees in this one. Let me know what you think in the comments below on these Halo takes. What'd you think about what I said, they said? Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not, and leave a like on the video if you liked it. Follow me on Twitter, and until next time, I'll catch y'all later.